Where'd you get these two guys from?
You were telling me Lampard isn't good for Everton.
Everton have indeed sacked Frank Lampard.
Liverpool win the league. I don't give a fuck. I've said it.
It is an unprecedented fourth Premier League title in a row for Manchester City.
I think he has a relationship with Marco Silva.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
In what way?
All good. Nah, I'm all good. Just been offered cocaine.
Look, why don't you have a spliff?
Will Jarvis still win it? What the hell?
So we leave it there, so okie doke.
There's no place for this to clip on in collars.
Open the zip.
Oh. Ooh. Wah, 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 wah. I've been feeling fine.
I'm falling no. That was Marvin Gaye, a rendition of Marvin Gaye to start the podcast. Karen, how do you feel about that? Probably a good thing it's not being recorded on camera this week.
Yeah, no. We're unfortunately in the studio this week. That's not English.
The studio this week.
This Monday. Because the studio is being renovated, Adam.
It is, Kieran, and people are going to listen to it and giggle and laugh, but we actually are going to do. We actually are working on
lights and stuff.
The studio 250. So that's why we're in my home this week, Kieran. It's not being recorded. I wasn't against the recording of it, but you are sat in front of me with brown shoes and trousers on. You've just come straight from work, Kieran.
Yeah, I mean, I would have looked classy on the camera, but
yeah, you would have looked well, to be fair.
I couldn't hike all that shit. That stuff from work to hit, from home to work and then to here. That would be too much. So I said we'll just bring the mics. The mics are very portable, as you know, and we'll bring these to Bruges, and along with the.
Which looks like it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
For those of you who are interested.
Is there anyone interested? But
I'll probably argue now, but
the video vlog might happen there as well, Adam.
Yeah, I think we should do it like proper vlog style and pretend we're cool and stuff.
And interview the locals and stuff.
Yeah, I would be interested in that, to be fair. I would be. But yeah, that's why we're not on YouTube this week. Sorry to Jack Riley. I think we're still going to put it on YouTube.
Yeah, it will, yeah.
But with no picture. It will be sound. There will be a picture on it. Not a moving picture, but Kieran.
Maybe a blank, anonymous picture.
Maybe just a picture of Jack Riley. Yeah. But that's how the land lies this Monday afternoon, Karen. I've been off for the last few days. I'm off today and tomorrow, so I'm quite the happy man, well rested.
Yeah, I mean, to live the life of Riley is a great thing, Adam. You know.
Well, it is until it's not. Like my Monday begins on Wednesday, you know. So it's one of those things where it's it's non-stop, Kieran. Life is non-stop.
It really is.
As Ronan Keaton said, life is a roller coaster. And we're about.
I don't endorse what Ronan Keaton says. But anyway.
We're about 6 minutes into the podcast and we've got to talk about football. So another typical episode, I suppose.
That's an adverse exaggeration. That is. But we were both out on Saturday together, weren't we?
We were. We want to say massive congratulations to your brother, in fact, Kieran, Rory, for his engagement to the lovely Laura.
And I suppose we should mention Steve Dowling as well.
Yeah, Steve Dowling and Amy, of course, they're engaged as well. They're having a party this Saturday, Kieran. So that will be another shindig, another hoot nanny, is that what they call it?
Jules Holland, is it? No,
Jules Holland, yeah.
No, but another brick in the wall. Is that
two fallen soldiers all the time.
Yeah. 4 fallen soldiers.
Well, you were going to marry your brother, is that what you're saying?
Oh, stop.
Just end this now, please. But yeah, we found ourselves in McGowan's, Kieran, which is quite the frightening proposition of a Saturday evening, to be honest. And we made it out the other side, thankfully.
Yeah, you were feeding me these
Green Diesel.
Green Diesel. Yeah, I'd never had it before. Adam was feeding it to me.
Yeah, it's what you think.
I don't know what to think.
Did you wake up with a sore head?
Well, I did, because at one point I went up to buy a round of Green Diesel and I was stung for 55 quid because I asked the fella for 2 Green Diesel and a double vodka and cranberry juice. And he decided, let's pour out these with Smirnoff Ice and sting this cunt. 55 quid.
I think you put double the dosage of blue aftershock in each glass for its worth.
What an absolute like before payday and everything.
Yeah, what a wally.
But it was a good night all the same, wasn't it?
It was a good night.
We enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah, we did. Shout out to Davidas as well, who was very enthusiastic about the podcast. I don't think he's ever mentioned on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first mention for him. But
yeah, and I've never really been out on the drink with Davidas actually. That's Rurie's friend, by the way.
We met your golf friends as well, Kieran.
We
were chatting about their mother.
Who claimed that all my predictions were from him, which wasn't true.
That's what I was about to bring up. Yeah. I don't know who to believe.
Not him anyway. I might have stolen some of his suggestions, but that doesn't mean my predictions were mine. I'm sad because he's a Spurs fan. I put Spurs in the top 4. Shouldn't have given him that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. You see, this is the thing. This is why I'm led to believe he did rob his predictions.
No, I wouldn't do that.
You've made eyes at me there as if you would do that.
Oh, well, no.
I was out at the Dublin Derby, Kieran, on Friday evening.
Yeah, I heard you came down with a dose of depression.
Big time.
I was very concerned.
Majorly. Oh my God. I actually did something. Not something. I did an interview.
I'm even more concerned now.
I did an interview for shout out to the Reds Independent, Michelle's Fanzine on Friday. I did an interview for them, and I don't think there's any left. I think they're sold out. But that was my start to Friday. I got the Fanzine in the post. It's right here beside me, Kieran, actually. But a good prelude to the game. But we got to the game itself. Yeah, it was a big one, Kieran, and the dose of depression. Yeah, sorry, getting back to the interview. In the interview, I do say, the one of the questions is, what's the worst part about the matchday experience? And I say the potential detrimental effect it has on my mental health if we lose a game. And that was the case on Friday evening. We didn't lose the game, but it certainly felt like a loss. The Shells are still joint top with a game in hand, so it's not too bad. It is somewhat. Go on, sorry.
I'm just looking at some of the questions that were asked to Adam here. What club do you hate the most? Simple answer, Bows, full stop.
Yeah, usually people like ramble on, but I'd rather look at the positive side of things. I don't really hate anyone, to be honest. I don't have hate in my heart, Kieran, I don't think.
Well, it sounds like you do by the sounds of this interview, but anyway.
But yeah, so the game itself, we drew.
Favourite film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Tarantino. Great film.
I'm not sure about that, Adam.
Would you not agree?
Favourite book, Pat Nevin, Football and How to Survive.
I said that's a book I've been reading, which I have.
Favourite TV show? Tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah, I'm just surprised he quoted that.
Okay.
And Sopranos or Breaking Bad. Good choices there.
What would you go with, Carol, for your favourite TV show? I feel like
I
you'd
wouldn't say tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it like that in a professional interview.
It's not really a professional interview though. It's for the fans, by the fans.
No, I'd probably go with Breaking Bad or Sopranos as well myself.
Better Call Saul, Kieran, you like Better Call Saul?
Yeah, it's very vanilla choices though, aren't they? Like
they are. I'd love to say something like The Wire, but I've yet to watch it. Favourite
gargle? Guinness, fond of a Victorian Malaga. After getting stranded there on the way back from Gibraltar. That's funny stuff, to be fair.
Yeah, you like that, Carl?
I'll have to give that a good read later on.
But yes, that was the interview, and as I said, the detrimental effect it had on me. I woke up on Saturday morning feeling like we had lost the game because we drew, and credit to Bowes. I think I said it on the podcast last week, they would make it tough, and they did. I thought they played very well in the evening, actually, to be honest. Shells didn't do quite enough to win it in the end, but there's still a long way to go. Brought Dermot actually as well, who friend of the show, friend of the podcast. Brought him to his first Dublin Derby and he enjoyed it.
That's good.
So he says he'll be back here on. But I want to read this out for you. Just the League of Ireland Premier Division table as it stands. Dundalk first, 1 win in 4 games. Shells second, no win in 4 games. Waterford third, lost 4 of the last 5 games. Sligo fourth, lost their last game 7-0 to Drogheda. Rovers 5th, 5 wins in the last 15. Galway 6th, 23 goals in 27 games. Pats 7th with 1 away win all season. Bows 8th, the worst home record in the league. Drogheda 9th, conceded 50 goals. And Dundalk are rock bottom. So it's been a really peculiar season. I think that suggests that there's very little consistency in it. And I think if ever there was a season where a team like Shells come in the league, it probably would be this season. So for my mental health, I sincerely hope we continue on, start putting a few wins together, because I do think it is potentially there for us. Not in the bow sense, because they usually say that after winning 2 games, but I do think we have a very good chance of getting some silverware this season, but Friday's result won't help that in any way, shape or form.
Very cut and dry there, Adam, with that Bowes comment.
Factual though.
By the way, do you think Rovers have a chance of coming back and win the league?
You see,
they have like 4 games in hand, don't they?
No, well, so they've played the same amount of games as us now.
Yeah.
Or they might have 1 game in hand on us, but they're 10 points off us as we sit here. Yeah, they've 1 game in hand on us. They're on 39. We're on 49 with 1 game more played. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But that's just the nature of Rovers every season.
They're kind of running out of time though at this point, aren't they?
They are. I think they'll want to start putting wins together now, and they're going to be playing European football, group stage European football, regardless. Yeah. Like that's a fact.
That's very good for the league, and
it is.
I suppose we better mention as well. Pat's got a very good result against Istanbul in the midweek, didn't they?
Which going away to Istanbul now would be very tough for them. And look, I'm not one of them. You know, it'd be great. I know you're saying it's good for the league, whatever. I'm not one of them to be like, I hope Pats win. I hope Pats get spanked on Thursday against Istanbul. To be honest, but it would be good for them if they got through, because they've had a really bad season as well. Stephen Kenny on a multi-year contract. That's the phrase, the hipster phrase that's used these days. What exactly is a multi-year contract? And he has a very little show for it, but a run in Europe would be good for him. It'd be good for money wise. It'd be very good for him. But I sincerely hope they don't go through.
Well, that's great news. Will we move on to maybe some of the weekend's football?
Kieran, what did you do on Saturday? You played golf and
I kind of crawled up in a ball as well, Adam, and played golf. And then
you were celebrating your brother's engagement on Friday evening, weren't you?
And Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a long weekend.
A rollover, Kieran, some would call it. Yeah.
So I didn't actually catch any of the football. Like, I obviously watched a lot of the highlights.
I feel like we say this at least every show.
Well, do you know what it is?
One of us say it at least every show.
Do you know what it is?
Did you watch Match of the Day?
Yeah, of course I did. But of course I did, Adam. But I was actually sat down and watched Match of the Day 2 last night.
Mark Chapman.
And I think it was, I don't know what the girl who was doing its name was.
Farrell Williams.
I thought she was alright, but I was particularly surprised by, because when I started watching it, I was like, Troy Deeney and Farrell Williams, this is going to be shy. You know, the typical kind of prejudice.
Think, before you say what you say, no, go on.
And I sat down and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by Troy Deeney's analysis of the game. I was like, this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched Match of the Day analysis where I'm kind of understanding what he's getting at in terms of manager tactics, and he kind of...
He was a manager as well, wasn't he? So
was he?
For his screen, yeah.
Well, he explains in-game situations very good. Like, almost like from a managerial perspective, and I found that fascinating. For all the world, he shouldn't be a good pundit.
Yeah.
But he was a good pundit. And I don't know if anyone else agrees to listen to this, because I just seen on Twitter the amount of abuse he was getting on Twitter, and I was like, this doesn't really correlate to what...
I think that's because of him as a manager, because I think he had a bad stint as a manager.
Yeah, but I quite liked his punditry.
Yeah.
And it's kind of refreshing to see someone who actually talks about the game rather than someone who's just there for a bubbly personality, such as, you know, the likes of Ian Wright and Michael Richards. Yeah. I'm not saying Ian Wright's punditry is bad, by the way. He's probably one of the better ones. But I was surprised by Troy Deeney. I say he's a good pundit.
I was about to say, so I love Match of the Day 2 purely because it's condensed into about an hour and 10 minutes.
Mark Chapman's great as well.
So that so I was about to say, I think Mark Chapman, generally speaking, brings the best out in people.
Maybe.
So, not saying that that's why Deeney was good on it. I didn't kind of pick up what you were picking up now. I've seen him on Match Day on a few occasions. But I think Mark Chapman, he's done this before. I'd love to get him on the podcast, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've done this before. He does this before where, like the NFL. So the NFL used to have a show on BBC where, much like Match of the Day, it'd just be the highlights and, you know, analysis and such. And if you weren't an NFL fan, you would understand what's going on based off how he speaks about it.
I kind of get what you're getting at.
And based off how he gets the pundits to speak about it.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think he's probably part of the solution there, I suppose, in one way or another, where he almost makes the game, he almost makes the pundit bring the game down to like a remedial level where
maybe
everyone can understand it. You know, I could be wrong, but I do actually really enjoy Mark Chapman. He's someone who I look at kind of in terms of a presenter and a broadcaster, and kind of look up to him in a way, because he's
do you know what, we will probably try and email Mark Chapman and try and get him on, but Troy Deeney, I thought, did a very good piece on Chelsea yesterday. And
I suppose we'll start with Chelsea.
We'll start with Chelsea because the episode number 3 is, of course, Noni Madeuke. And shout out to Scavo, who we used to go to school with. Shane Cavan, he texted me this morning on the podcast count. He says, looking forward to next week's episode. The Noni Madeuke. Boy Jesus, imagine calling your city a shithole then scoring a hat-trick against you. So I suppose we'll start with Madeuke. What a performance, man. Yeah, and do you know what? He's a player that's really positive always when he's playing. He kind of, when the ball goes out to him, he's always looking to attack the fullback he's up against. Yeah. And in this game, I think he was given a great supply line by Palmer, and he took advantage so well. He was very direct, and he's always very direct. He always tries to catch the keeper out before he sets himself, which I think is a great trait to have as a winger. Like, take the shot before the keeper has a chance to set himself. Yeah. And not enough wingers do it, and not enough forwards do it. And he reaped the rewards and got a hat-trick, and I thought he was brilliant. But firstly, I'd like to precurse this by saying, or preface this rather, I didn't watch the game yesterday. Right. And it's one of the first times where I was like, fuck this, I'm not watching the game. Because every time I sit down and watch the game, I'm depressed. Yeah. And you know what? They won. And now I might not watch a game ever again.
Yeah, I woke up yesterday in a bit of a hungover state, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm an old dog these days, Kieran.
An old dog? As if I didn't know that already, Adam.
And the gargle kind of takes down me. But I woke up and I started to feel back to myself upon eating. And it was a choice between Chelsea and Wolves or Newcastle Bournemouth. And I was like, I'd much rather watch Chelsea hopefully get beaten by Wolves. That was the game we watched on Christmas Eve last year. And do you remember that game? Remember we were in the hut?
I do remember that game.
And Sterling misses a sitter, and I think Wolves win like 2-1 or 3-1.
I thought it was a very similar game. From what I've watched, it was very kind of, especially the first half, very end to end, and kind of let's forget about defending.
I think the first half summed Chelsea up so well. Like, I think second half the quality kind of came through, and Palmer especially. I know Madeuke gets the hat-trick, but I think a lot of that goes down to Cole Palmer's position and his play in general. But the first half, man, Chelsea's lack of defending is astonishing. Like, I think it could be potentially, like, if they were to get to defending right, it could be a very special season for Chelsea, I think.
But I'd also agree with that, because I watched Matchday yesterday, and I was half thinking Neto and Felix off the bench. Yeah, that is like,
it's quality. Yeah,
to have that kind of luxury to bring those two off the bench. Yeah. You know, we're laughing if we bring in a good centre back, or centre forward, even Aussie man. Yeah, if we get Aussie man. But to be honest with you, I think the front three and the options are great. So
I'd be getting rid of him. Not getting rid of him. That's a bit harsh, but I think Mudryk, again in a game like yesterday, the nature of it being so end to end, for him to not even look like, and it's probably completely confidence based. He's probably devoid of any of it, but for him to not look like he's gonna cause problems in a game like that, and Wolves are so bad defensively in that game as well. I suppose that would be the frustrating part.
Yeah, I think Mudryk, to be honest with you, I've lost all hope in Mudryk, and I think he does a lot of good things, but then his final ball he panics always. And I actually I'm very impressed by Maresca and how he comes out and speaks about these things. Because the last two managers, Potter and Pochettino, they have a love in with the players, and it's all, you know, hippie, happy, clappy land.
Yeah.
And it's kind of too much. Oh, the players are great and all this.
There's a lot to be said for that, yeah.
It's kind of refreshing to hear Maresca come out and say, Mudryk was fucking shit today. Essentially, in a nutshell, he's not saying that specifically, but he's saying something along those lines in his press conference, and he goes, he needs to be better. Like, it's a lot more refreshing here than Pochettino going, the players were great, or Potter said. And that makes me hopeful about Maresca. And I always find that a manager, kind of like a PR man, like Potter and Pochettino and kind of Lampard, the people that you like always end up being bad. And the people that you're not expecting, I wasn't expecting Tuchel coming in to be that great when he first came in. And I kind of think the same for Maresca. And I'm hoping it's the same sort of thing, where Maresca ends up being better than I think he is.
Yeah. My only worry for Chelsea in terms, especially, maybe not in a game like that, but a game like Man City, for example. Yesterday, they win 6-2, but they didn't really have control of the game. Like Wolves get a goal then, I think, at 5-2 to make it 5-3, and it was ruled out for offside. And I look at, come here, these are ifs and buts, but I'd be very curious to know what would have happened if that goal stood. Do Chelsea kind of go into disarray or whatever? And, you know, it feels like they got on top and they stayed on top, don't get me wrong, but you still felt Wolves could score. And at 6-2, the game finished at 6-2, like, Chelsea have scored more goals than Wolves. They've won the game, deservedly so. But in a game against a team like Arsenal, Man City, you saw the other week, Liverpool, I don't really think you can play like that without getting, you know, without letting the other team control it and getting hopped off. And that'd be my only worry for Chelsea in terms of that. And I just think defensively they're still quite fragile. But going forward, the options going forward are really, really strong. I think if they were to add a striker, I don't know why Chelsea aren't going for Ivan Toney. I'm baffled as to why they're not throwing money at Ivan Toney.
Honestly, I kind of don't mind if they're scoring loads of goals. I don't mind it being a case where they're conceding loads of goals. If they're scoring 6 goals and they win 6-4, I don't really care as long as they win the game.
This is it. It's like Liverpool in 2013, 2014, and we fell short of the league that season. And you look back on it and you're like, well, if you had to stop letting goals in, because there will be points in the season where, like Chelsea were doing it last season, where they were creating loads of chances but couldn't score a goal.
Can I ask you a question?
So they've changed that around this season from what we've seen so far.
Have you changed your mind on your initial prediction for Chelsea to finish 11th this year? After evidence of what you've seen?
You see, I'm still worried defensively. That'd be my own issue. I think the good thing for Chelsea is I don't think there's that many like really, really quality sides in the league. Like there's teams like Brighton, West Ham, Spurs, you know, Palace, even Everton on the day can be tricky customers. Fulham at Craven Cottage. Like there'll be games like that are tricky, and Wolves is a tricky opposition.
You're kind of pandering around the question though, Adam.
No, I'm going to answer the question.
Right,
the point being is, like, there's those kind of tough games.
Alright.
And I think if Chelsea can win those kind of games consistently, they'll definitely be up the table. Naturally enough, they'll be up the table. I'm still in a state of the goalkeeper's not great and the defence isn't great. I think that maybe apart from Cucurella, the defence you're looking at mid-table defence, I think. And I really rate Cucurella.
Gusto?
Yeah, I wouldn't be sold.
Fofana?
But Fofana, can you rely on Fofana? Can you though?
If he stays fit, you can.
But that's the point. Is he going to stay fit? Can
Probably
you rely on
not.
him? Do you know?
Yeah.
So, goalkeeper, I don't think is good enough. So look, it remains to be seen. To answer your question, am I going back on it? Maybe, yeah, but no, they're not going to finish 5th or 6th. I still think it'll be bottom half of the kind of top half of the table. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or top of the bottom half, kind of. I think around. I'm considering Chelsea finished up the table last season in a position that probably doesn't feel like they did. You know, it would be a letdown, but they've spent a lot of money. I think they've probably, to have spent what Chelsea have spent and not have a quality striker or a quality goalkeeper, still kind of baffles me. But the signs are good. Going forward, the signs are very good. I think long term, if you're going for a title, which Chelsea probably aren't this season, I don't think it's great. But yeah, they'll definitely be entertaining. Put it that way, they'll definitely be a side you'll want to watch. Where I think last season when they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, it was probably a very frustrating thing. So yeah, I think Chelsea they'll be alright. They won't get relegated. Put it that way.
Oh, let's go down. We'll move on to the team that we lost out on Europa League because they got knocked out with the Champions League, and then they go ahead and win the FA Cup and the UEFA coefficient and all that.
Manchester United.
Manchester United, very, very poor performance against Brighton at the weekend.
You think?
No, well, they lost 2-1, so I'm just saying that, but I didn't see the full game.
Yeah.
But I actually thought Diallo was quite good, if I was to comment.
Yeah.
But
so I actually, Saturday was a very lazy day for me. I did kind of sit in front of this television that we're about looking at now, from the early kickoff to the late kickoff. I think Man United were quite unfortunate.
were they?
To be honest, yeah, I think they could have won that game 2 or 3 times over. You know, I think Brighton gave up a lot of chances. Now look, Brighton took their goals well. You know, they had 2 or 3 goals ruled out for offside, and obviously look, that's the difference. You know, if you stay onside, you win the game. But fine margins. I think that the goal that Garnacho gets, that Zerchi kind of puts in, he's offside there. You know, Brighton, Pedro gets the goal later on. So I don't think if United had a won, you couldn't really bat an eyelid. Same way I think Brighton winning, you can't really bat. I think either team could have won, and he would have been, well, that's fair enough, do you know. But I still think United are somewhat fragile, which is, you know, is interesting again because they've spent money.
Well, yeah, and do you not think these are games in his 3rd season now Ten Hag should be winning?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
And this Brighton manager's been in the job 2 games and he beats Ten Hag.
Yeah.
And they look, to me, a bit more structured than United as well in the game.
I think the biggest criticism of Ten Hag all these years later is that you still don't know his style. You know, you can't look at like that game on Saturday. They were almost playing like a 4-2-2-2, and with the 2 forwards being Rashford and Diallo, and then Mount, Fernandes behind them, and Mainu and Casemiro behind them again. But Rashford finds himself on the left wing quite a lot. Diallo, the opposite wing on the right. And there's no one up front. So that tells me that the 2 lads are playing up front don't want to be in that position. They want to be playing wide football. Mount and Fernandes don't have the instinct of a striker to be in the box. I don't even know what type of player Mount is all these years later.
He's very injury prone though. It's hard to know.
They just like, there's still a lot going on. You know,
I think it's
without actually knowing what they're doing. And it's like, if I'm a United fan, I think there's a lot of positive signs with the new, you know, ownership, and I think Ruud van Nistelrooy coming into the coaching staff. I know he was with PSV, was it? So like, there's a lot of positive signs there. But I'd still be apprehensive.
But is that just a box ticking exercise? I'm not slating United here, but bringing Ruud van Nistelrooy in,
I think it's a contingency plan.
Maybe it is.
I think they're potentially planning for Ten Hag not cooking and being thrown out.
But is that that to me is very sinister in a way, signing a manager up for another year and then more or less saying, oh, if we sack him, we have... Yeah, well, if we sack him, we can just pick Van Nistelrooy. Yeah. I think it's a bit mad.
But I think that describes United well, though.
Yeah.
I think they're a bit of a circus, you know, But
you said there's a lot of good signs with the ownership.
I think there's stuff to be positive about.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, I think planning for Ten Hag potentially being sacked or leaving at some point, and having Van Nistelrooy there, that is good planning. There's no 2 ways. That is decent planning. Do you know, and I don't know, you know, Van Nistelrooy's credentials as a manager. I know I'm saying PSV, I could be wrong here. PSV are a top side in the Dutch division. So, like, I just think United were unfortunate the weekend. You know, I think they could have won that game and no one would have batted an eyelid. You know,
Well,
that would be my main takeaway from that game.
I'd have no sympathy for them and no sympathy for Ten Hag because he doesn't start Garnacho, in my opinion, was one of Man United's best players last year, and he doesn't start De Ligt instead of Harry Maguire. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, maybe.
Considering you bring in a player like De Ligt, you'd expect to start, considering his credentials as, I would say, a world-class centre-back at one stage.
Is he a world-class centre-half now, though?
No, I said at one stage,
Yeah.
when he was with Ajax, he would have been considered that.
I would
at no stage would you say Harry Maguire should get in ahead of De Ligt.
I would question De Ligt's quality as a player majorly. From going from Ajax to Juventus, then to Bayern Munich, and now at Man United, to be passed around like he has, tells me that these top teams, I suppose from Ajax to Juventus, he did reach a peak with Ajax in that European run that, he was quality. But to be passed around as such suggests to me that maybe he's not as good as... If he's as good as what he is, I think he'd be knocking about Man City or, Real Madrid. I'm not saying Man United aren't a top club, they still are. But I don't think De Ligt is that good, is my argument to yours. I think he's a quality centre-half, don't get me wrong. I think the art of defending in today's modern game has gone in all aspects, really. But I don't know if he's a real quality, or if he's as good as what you're touting him to be. I don't think there's a lot between him and Maguire, put it that way.
Well, that's an interesting take. I would start De Ligt personally on paper over Maguire every single day of the week.
That's fair enough. United are playing Liverpool on Sunday, Kieran.
Yeah.
You can guarantee they'll be up for that.
Of course, that's always going to be a game where United do their usual thing where they show up and maybe win the game. But I just think long term, I'm not sure there is as many positive signs as there should be. 3 years into a stint for Ten Hag, and where have they gone? They've gone pretty much nowhere.
Well, Sunday's a big game for them. Sunday's a big game for them. I don't think this Liverpool side, as well as we've been playing, I don't think we're not as fearful as what we were under Klopp. So they'll go into Sunday full of confidence.
Yeah.
We're not confidence, but full of belief, I suppose, would be the better way of putting it.
What did you think of Liverpool's performance yesterday? 2-0 against Brentford.
Very controlled.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I watched this whole game, actually.
This would be my main kind of issue with the likes of United and Chelsea, just for comparison. There was no real point in that game where I was like, Brentford are going to score. I think they had a chance in the second half where Collins headed it, Alisson saved, and then he had to punch it away, and that was the only point. It was like, they might get a goal. But generally speaking, now this could be because they weren't playing without a recognised striker, without Tony, but there was no point where I was like, Brentford are going to threaten us here. And if they did get a goal, there was no thought in my head thinking, we can't get back into it. Do you know what I think? I had that same feeling when I was watching Man City against Ipswich, even after going 1-0 down. And I had that thought when Arsenal were playing Villa as well. I just felt that these teams, and I'm putting Liverpool in that bracket, Liverpool could easily fall out of that bracket at any point. Like if this goes wrong for Slot,
well,
there'd be questions asked.
I think we've seen last year Brentford were somewhat nullified as a team, and they didn't maybe perform to the season before. And Liverpool have only played Ipswich and Brentford to this point.
Yeah. So
I would be intrigued to see how Liverpool fare against the likes of a West Ham, even, who have a bit more going forward on the counter attack.
And Slot has said this as well. Slot did say,
I actually like Slot a bit more than Klopp. Klopp for me was a bit moany. Slot.
Last week you were slating him.
I think. You
were saying he was boring last week.
Adam, I'm in love with football again. Chelsea won a game. I love football. Football is back. It's great to have football back. But no, I think Slot, as a personality, I'm talking about, not his style of football. I don't like his style of football. As I said about this whole new brand of football that's gone around, I think as a personality, Slot is a lot more amicable, I would say, than Klopp.
I don't know. I think it's very early to read into that. I think he's settled in well with the English media, which is always a plus. But yeah, like that again, he has said that himself. He has said, like, all due respect to Brentford and Ipswich, they probably won't be top of the table come May. And I think he's very, wise in that sense. Like, he's very, he's not naive to the fact that we've had to, I'm not going to say easy games, but easier games in the Premier League. And both sides, but Ipswich and Brentford did kind of pose a certain test, different aspects of the game. But, like, Sunday's a massive game for him. I think Sunday's a massive game for Ten Hag as well.
He has a very easy run in after that, though. He has, well, I'm not going to say easy run in, but he has easier games. Like, I think for the next 6 games after United game.
Right.
So I'd say Liverpool could build up
a bit
of steam, and I think Chelsea as well. Like, I know we're saying Chelsea had no control in that game. Chelsea have 4 or 5 winnable games coming up, so there could be a chance Chelsea could be 6 wins, 1 loss by the end of those games, based on what we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, like, I potentially think you're probably putting the horse before the carriage here. I'd be tapering expectations for that for the moment. I think one of the reasons...
I'm a lot more confident than I was with Pochettino, though.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I would just be wary of when Chelsea play European football. Like Liverpool's, you are right in that sense, our next few games after United is Forest at home, Bournemouth at home, Wolves away on a Saturday evening, which is a tough game. It is a tough game. I don't care what you say, it's a tough game. Palace away on the 5th of October, again, tough game. Chelsea home then the 19th of October. Game's getting a bit easier then. But, like, it's an interesting one. Like, I do think Slot can build up, the way he's built up the side so far, I do think we can build up ahead of steam. And I'd be looking at European football, I'd be looking at Champions League maybe as, more of an outlet to win. In the sense of, I think the Liverpool side is set up for a cup competition, and I look at the Champions League as that competition. The league, it's a long year, and one of our questions, it's actually a really good question for me, and we'll get onto it and get it out. But has a lot changed in the Premier League since it's come back? I don't really believe so. I think the top teams are still hitting. I think the likes of Spurs, United, yourselves. I'm not going to say hit and miss, but I think there's certain, frailties to your game. Going forward, he's looked really good, but defensively, I think when, really...
I think you're going to see us break out with that bracket soon. Back up again. That'll be my take on it.
You're basing this off a win away to Wolves, just
from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think you're a madman.
I could be mad.
Yeah, no, I think you're...
I could also be right.
I think you're jumping the gun a bit. But to kind of put a nail in the coffin of the weekend, I think Arsenal as well were very comfortable.
2-0 against Villa.
City as well, 4-1 in the end against
4-1
Ipswich.
yeah.
Ederson really poor for Ipswich's goal. But Arsenal specifically, like, they bring Trossard on. I think Martinelli's a bit of a poser, and anyways, I'm doing a bit of a Dunphy here. I think he's a bit of a poser regardless. I've always thought that. I think he's all fart, no shy.
That's a great expression.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I thought he proved that on Saturday against Villa, or didn't prove anything really, because he comes into the game and Cash goes down injured, and then they bring on some young lad, Milenkovic, I think is his name. I think he's 19 years of age, Serbian. And not once did he stand him up and kind of take him on. And it was something that Salah did really well yesterday against Brentford, actually. Against Ayer at left back, he really stood him up, and then he got past him a couple of times, and Diaz nearly got a second goal because of it. But I think even the art of being a winger is gone. I think Madeuke done it really well yesterday, where the amount of times and I love Ain't Nuri for what it's worth. I think Ain't Nuri is a really quality player, but the amount of times Noni Madeuke stood him up, got him onto his left foot, and was hitting shots in. He was hitting crosses in. Like, that was really impressive yesterday. But Martinelli doesn't do that. He doesn't do it. And Saka on the other side, he does it a bit more often, but Trossard comes on, gets the goal to put Arsenal ahead.
Do you think Arsenal are a bit of hype at the moment? As in, have their performances impressed you? Because I know you said they didn't look like conceding, but I'm fairly sure at one stage Watkins had a missed sitter.
Watkins had 2 sitters.
Yeah.
Which I suppose contradicts my point, but like Villa last season in both games, and we had this argument before about Watkins, I think it was. Villa looked like killers in those games. In that game on Saturday, they kind of looked a bit tentative. And I was saying to myself, like, Morgan Rogers had a really good game for Villa. And I was saying to myself, get at this Arsenal team. I'm telling you now, get at them. Because they're like Yuri and Timber back from a long injury, his first game back. If that's Salah playing on that right side, Trent on that side, Szoboszlai, you're getting the ball out to them every single time. Put him under pressure. They didn't really do that. And especially with Martinelli on that side as well, he was doing like very little going forward. You're kind of saying to yourself, you can hurt them. Ryan makes a great save.
The point blank save where an Arsenal fan showed this to me today in work, and I said that's straight at the keeper. Like, he literally had all the goal to look at, and he decides to head it straight at Raya.
Did he show you in slow motion?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. In real time, it's so quick. Like, it's about 3 seconds. It all happening from the shot in the crossbar.
Well, to me, that's just him doing his. Like, I don't mean to be blunt about it, but it's him It's him doing his job as a goalkeeper.
It's still a good save.
Yeah,
it's still a good save. And I suppose Man City looking as dominant as ever.
Yeah, Haaland always gets off to a hot start, doesn't he?
And De Bruyne and Savio, man. I'm a big fan of Savio.
Savio was kind of.
If Madeuke didn't score the hat trick, I think we'd have been calling this episode the Silvino or the Savio, whatever his name is. Really, really impressive, man. I really like him. He's another winger who full throttle. He gets at Leif Davis for the penalty, and Davies takes him down. And the referee, I thought, actually managed the game really well. But he was really impressive.
Very.
I think City look really dominant as well. And looking at the top 3, I think Arsenal could probably do with a striker. You know, City have brought back an Ilkay Gundogan. I think we could do with a left-sided centre half.
There we land.
And a midfielder. I'd be really happy with that. Calafiori coming into Arsenal then in second half as well. Do you know the Italian fella?
The Italian stallion.
He came on and he was like a pit bull, man. And we were watching it before we went out. And I said today, it was like, we should have thrown fucking everything at Bologna to get him.
Yeah.
Because he was so assured when he came on. No bother to him coming on either. He came into a game, Arsenal, I think, were 1-0 up at the time. And just looked like he'd been playing Premier League football for years, you know. So end the season could come back to hurt Liverpool. You wouldn't know, but I think it was a very solid weekend of Premier League football.
Yeah, very quickly, I'd like to discuss as well, Everton lose 4-0, and at the train station, there is a video circulating of the Everton fans screaming abuse at players. Noni Madeuke comes out with a tweet saying it's not acceptable in any other profession, this will not be tolerated, etc. Imagine waiting at a train station shouting at players that are just doing their best, or men that are just doing their best.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I think Madeuke has a bit of cheek about him, man, to be honest. He can't really carry on like that, given the nature of his being, the nature of how he reacts, generally speaking. I don't think he can have a problem or an issue with the fans doing that. Now, maybe a bit excessive at a train station. I think Everton fans are a strange breed. But I think he has a point to an extent, but same time, he's a shithouse. He should be able to take that, no bother.
Yeah, and I think he knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, and I think he's part of the issue. Like, looking at Everton's bench the weekend, you have a player in Noni Madeuke to come on. You could probably count the amount of goals he has in the last 4 seasons in one hand. Do you know?
Yeah, and I don't understand why they're not playing the likes of Jesper Lindstrom and people that they brought in. And
Jacob Bryan.
From the start. Jacob Bryan, yeah. Jacob Bryan's just sat on the bench.
Michael Keane ahead of him. Yeah.
Crazy.
I think Everton are in a bad way. I don't think it's changed, you know, all these years. I think they're leaving Goodison at the end of the season, and it would be very Everton to go down this season.
Yeah. In
the last season of Goodison, and be sad as well, to be honest. I wouldn't like to lose the Merseyside derby. It'd be funny. It would be quite funny, but They're in a bad way. Yeah, they're in a really bad way.
Very quickly as well, controversial incident in the Newcastle game. Last minute goal from it was Otera. It hits his shoulder at him. What do you think of that?
I don't know what to think of it. Because
it should have been allowed.
It should have been allowed. That was my initial reaction. Because that's not your hand, you know. Like if a defender blocked a shot with his shoulder in that instance, or the same spot in his body as what Sarah scored it with, does the referee give a penalty? Probably not. So I think in decisions like that, because it's a big decision, I think the referees tend to shit themselves, really. That's putting it down, like making it really basic. And like you being reactionary about Chelsea, I think we're all reactionary beings. Yeah. You know, we're all reactionary people, and I would say he probably got a fright and was like, right, we have to rule this out. But there was another one down the other end. I don't know if you've seen Joe Linton giving the Bournemouth goalie a clothesline. And I think he gave me yellow. And now, whatever about the goal, you'd be frustrated about the goal. I'd be very frustrated about the opposition player getting a yellow card for a clothesline. It was blatant as well. So, I think Newcastle got away with one.
They look fairly underwhelming, don't they? Undercooked for what what their team is.
For Newcastle, you know, when they got the investment, and I think we talked in depth about it, there was talking about Neymar and Mbappe coming in.
Yeah.
Looking at their defence yesterday, Livramento, Kraft, Dan Bourne, Lewis Hall. Like, do me a favour. Like,
it's the honeymoon.
All due respect to these players. Is the money actually there?
And was it just a honeymoon phase in the ownership? Like, things were so bad for so long that they got all this initial, obviously, infusion of money.
Kelly, was when he started yesterday.
And now it's kind of died down, and they actually have to go back to. You know what I'm saying? Trying to say.
I don't know where it goes though, Kieran. Yeah. I don't know what the end point is for Newcastle, because it's very strange one where they have got history, they have got a good fan base. St James Park's lovely ground. I think with the FFP has kind of stopped them, you know, making these strides. I wouldn't fancy Newcastle to be too high up the table this season.
No.
You know?
And I think they might have plateaued with Eddie Howe. I think they need to move on from him, maybe.
Yeah, and I think he sees a certain international job that he has his eye on. And he's probably waiting for the show.
Yeah.
But in saying that, they still have quality players. I think Isak, Tonali, Guimaraes, Joe Linton's still quite good. Anthony Gordon, of course. I'd be interested to see how many of these players are left. Come Friday, is it? The end of the transfer window. Harvey Barnes comes on. Like, they have still got really decent players. Do you know? Callum Wilson's injured at the minute.
I don't think he's getting enough out of them though. That'd be my one qualm with Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I don't think they're that good.
No,
Kieran, I don't think they're. Generally speaking, I don't think they have the quality, as much quality as you think. If Longstaff is starting in your midfield, I think you can forget about it.
I just think it's mad from where we were sat here chatting about them, saying they're going to be taking over the league.
But this was the impression we were given, though.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think this was us being idiots. I think this was the impression we were given. And, like, we're looking at YouTube. We don't have it on, but one of the thumbnails on YouTube here has Chiesa, Aussie men, as the kind of figures on the thumbnail. Sorry. The impression we're given is that Newcastle were in for these kind of players.
Yeah.
And they haven't. So it's just interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah,
you know,
they've been
it's
undercooked.
interesting to see where they go from here. Your moment of the weekend, Kieran. You did this
moment of the weekend. I'm gonna give it to Madeuke, obviously, for his Wolverhampton comments and
oh my God,
him scoring a hat trick.
Crazy, by the way.
And him being booed the whole game, and him shutting up all them people in that stadium.
Yeah, I think my moment of the weekend, I'll give it to Jordan Pickford for being really bad with the ball at his feet, and I think Muric as well for Ipswich. I think it's an interesting point to make that. We're going to see a lot of those mistakes this season. Because every single team is playing out from the back.
Well, last week we had McCarthy as well, giving it away on his own 6 side.
So, these are 3 mistakes in 2 weeks, like.
Yeah.
So I'll give it to Pickford.
When it goes right, it goes very right. When it goes wrong, it goes very wrong. Pass it from the back.
I did say on Instagram, Kieran, I said, podcast being recorded tomorrow, a weekend where Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea all win and Man United lose. Anything else on your mind? Gary Vav says you. Could be me or you. I'm not sure.
Well, Gary.
I don't know why we're on your mind, Gary. Please get in contact. He says Oasis reunion. What do you think of that, Kieran?
Very exciting times.
It is. I didn't know they were reuniting. It would have been nice if someone shared a post on Instagram.
You're half the world away, Adam.
Half the world away. Great tune, by the way. David Dunwoody says, why does Arne Slot look like a bald Pochettino? I think you need glasses, Woodler.
I think he's onto something.
I don't think he looks like Poch at all.
I think he's onto something.
No, I don't think so. He also says, Noni on my mind, just this place is shit.
Wolves.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, and I suppose, Carol, it brings back to the point. Ian says it here. Does league really change? This season just seems the same as last season already. And we did talk about that earlier on. I just don't feel like a lot has changed. I don't feel like a lot will change. You think it will, though?
Yeah, I suppose I can see a few surprises. Like, not much will change, but I can see a few surprises. I think Spurs might do better than we might have predicted. But I could see them even pushing further than that if they get foreign. If they keep the likes of Van de Ven fit and Romero's looks decent so far. And then Chelsea, I think, will do a bit better than we might
What's
predict.
a bit better from last season for Chelsea?
A bit better.
Where did they finish last season? 6th, was it?
6th, yeah. I think they could get top 4.
Right.
And that would be a good result.
What gives the suggestion that Spurs do so well? Because they struggled away at Leicester, I thought. And I think Everton were shit. No, that's not why they won. They were won because they were quality, but...
I think it's early doors. I don't know. Nothing gives me the impression, but I could see a few things changing. Nothing ever stays the same.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Dave says the impending doom of a title run in for Shells. Yeah, it's I wouldn't say doom. Like, I think...
I would say doom.
I don't think there was a lot of people who thought we'd be in the position we're in. Like, to be honest with you, man, to be second with a game in hand, level on points with the team leading the league, and in the cup quarter final against the league leaders, well, current league leaders. If you had asked me that at the start of the season, would I take that with 10 games left? I'd have bitten your hand off. And I think we've had enough times supporting Shells where it's been grim. You know, in the first division, it's quite grim. Yeah. Move on to get it out.
Yes, sir.
We'll start off with Ian, who says 3 players from the Championship you'd like to see in the Premier League.
Good question. I'd love to see John Egan. I know he's probably not in the... He's a free agent. John Egan. I rate him as a professional footballer. I think he's one of Ireland's better players.
Right.
And then after that, I'm thinking Willie Nanto of Leeds. I'd love to see him get a move away from that shit.
I can see him getting a move as well.
Hole. And then after that, Connor Salmon. No, I don't know. I don't know many players from Championship. What about yourself, Adam? Who do you think should...
Will Jarvis of Hull. Obviously, former Shells winger. It probably would be very early for him to get moved to the Premier League, but I do see that being a ceiling. I do think he's a really quality player, so I think eventually Will Jarvis will be playing Premier League football for who? Don't know. Other than that, I know Chakavadze plays for... Chakavadze.
Who?
Georgian international, plays for Watford.
Sorry, I just wanted to hear you pronounce it again.
I've seen him play a good few times for Georgia, I think. I know they have, mad names, so he would be someone who I think he's done well for them so far this season. Elsewhere, man, I wouldn't be mad on the Championship full stop, but...
What about Alan Brown?
I was about to say Sinclair Armstrong is currently playing up front for Bristol City Has 1 goal so far this season. He's a decent player. You know, I don't think he's bad. Gustavo Hamer as well. I really enjoyed him in the Premier League last season.
Gustavo Fring.
Thankfully, I'm looking at the league table here for the Championship. Luton are 23rd. So hopefully that stays the same. Ian says, if you could get a regen of one pass, Irish player for your club, who would it be? Probably Damien Duff for you, Kieran.
Damien Duff. Do you know what? Robbie Keane would have been a good option.
Yeah.
He was clinical back in his day.
I'm trying to think. You know, I think the easy answer for Liverpool, for example, is Roy Keane, because we need a deep line midfielder. But other than that, I don't know. I definitely wouldn't want Keith Andrews or Glenn Whelan. I'll tell you that for free.
What about Paul Green?
No,
you wouldn't take him in Liverpool's midfield?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Damien Duff is probably a good shout as well. I know I've said it already for you, but...
And I love Damien Duff.
He reached such a high level. Like, he was in the UEFA Team of the Year in 2003, which still, like, I think is very underrated. Gary sends in a picture of Felix Magath and says, would you rather Felix Magath as your manager or Joe Felix as your striker? And neither, preferably.
You don't like Joe Felix?
I don't rate him to the extent that I assume you do. I assume you rate him very highly.
Yeah. He has more goals than Nunes this year so far.
Has he? Did he score this year? Did he?
Yeah, he scored, yeah.
He did the last goal, wasn't it? I'd say he's probably played more minutes than Nunes as well. Nunes hasn't really featured. I just think he's probably been mismanaged his whole career, but he's put on such a pedestal at such a young age with the fee that Benfica got for him, that it's probably hard to do anything else other than what he did. But I don't really rate him at all. I don't think he's, again, much like De Ligt, as you were saying earlier. I think if Joe Felix was as good as what he is, all due respect to Chelsea, I don't think he'd be knocking around Chelsea. I think he'd be knocking around the likes of Barcelona, and I know he was with Barcelona.
That is
but
disrespect.
Real Madrid or Man City or...
That is disrespect.
You know. Dave says, if Ten Hag is the answer, what is the question?
What is the question?
If Ten Hag is the answer, what is the question?
Hair transplant.
What comes after 9 Hag?
10 Hag.
Seriously though, do you think Ten Hag will last much longer at Man United?
I'll give him 6 months. I'll give him to do before Christmas before he's sacked. I think they'll sack him for Christmas.
Is that 6 months?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Well, from the start of the it's only 4 months.
Yeah, you're mad, idiot.
How long do you give him?
I think, honestly now, I know we didn't do it earlier, and I was trying to push us to do it, but prediction for Sunday, I can see United winning or a score draw. And that's pure pessimism, I know, but they usually turn up against us. So I think if he wins against us, that'll keep him in for a few more months.
I think Liverpool win that game 3-0.
But I think he'll get results along the way that'll keep him in the job. So I think we could get another season at Ten Hag, to be fair. Don't think we should, but I think we definitely could. Ulton Corcoran says, if you could 2-foot any player past or present, who would it be and why? Bruno Fernandes for me.
Joey Barton.
Why Joey Barton?
I'd love to square up to him after. See what happens.
Joey Barton would beat you up, man.
Probably. But it would be a good fight.
Yeah. Fair.
I'd lay a few hands on him.
Ulton says, please get Kieran to rank his top 3 biggest hipster football pages. Jewels cannot be included.
Oh, terms he means?
Yeah, well, different things. Like, for me,
XG.
one would be, XG is one for me. But I would say half and half scarves. I think they're good for decoration, but I see people wearing them. It's a bit of an ick, as the ladies say these days. It'd be a footballing ick for me, would be wearing a half and half scarf. So I don't know if that's hipster nonsense.
Inverted fullbacks.
Right, that's 2.
Premium boxes got on socials. Shout out to Stella McCabe.
Is that hipster nonsense?
Yeah, because you're going to games and eating a full course meal.
Yeah,
we were talking about this the other day, actually.
I do think as well, like, the basis of football has always been a sport for the working class person. The likes of a box of a football game is, you couldn't get any further away from the working class man. You know, families would go to football in years gone by for a pie and a pint, and whatever the kids would have. I know it's just not that anymore. I think it's very polished now. It's very
and it's all cinema
sanitized. Yeah, it is definitely cinema's fault. Alton says, what are the best ways to combat hipster football? How do you know if you've transmitted the virus?
Alton clearly this
Alton is a bit of a football hipster himself,
So what was the question?
He's trying to gaslight you here. How do you know if you've transmitted the virus of being a football hipster? I think you've caught the bug, to be honest. Just judging by how excited you are by Maresca and Chelsea.
I think if you're looking at triangles and you're looking at patterns of play, I think you've already caught the bug. You can't think of that way. If you overthink...
Who can't think of that way? Oh, the layman.
Huh?
The layman can't think of that way. Like the normal person.
Yeah, no, you can't think that way. Right. You have to look at football blankly and sort of pick and choose. If you're looking at styles of play and tactics while you're watching a game of football, you're already losing. You are the hipster.
Alton says, if you both managed a mid-table playing club, who would finish our first season? Who would finish higher in the table and why?
I love this question.
I would finish higher in the table.
No, you wouldn't.
Purely because I'm looking at patterns of plays and triangles. You would send the lads out and just be like, enjoy yourself, boys.
No, I wouldn't. I'd send them out in a rigid structure and they'd absolutely tear into I'd bring it back to the 1970s. I would. You got to be chain smoking after the game, like. Yeah, I will be. I'll be chain smoking on the touchline, and I'll have players like what's his name, Terry Butcher and
Butcher playing in the 70s. Yeah.
What's his name? What was your man's name? Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie Jones. I knew you were going to say that.
And then I'd have them like 2-footing everyone and 2-footing the referee and everything.
Who would be the mid-table club you're taking?
Do you know what? I'd love a go at the likes of Palace, or I'd love a go at Ipswich or something. Or
Grant, you can have Palace or Ipswich. I'll take Chelsea, and our team will beat the shit.
What would be your style of play, actually, before we move on?
It would probably be very modern. Yeah, I don't think. Unfortunately, I think the world we're living in, I don't think a lot of the top players in the likes of these clubs, I don't think they can play any different. Like, I think a lot of them are system players and they fall into these traps. And, like, the art of spontaneity is gone.
Nah.
Do you know?
Nah, I get that spontaneity back.
How?
I demand it from the players.
I don't think that's something you can demand. I think it's something you have or you don't.
Nah.
Do you know?
I demand a higher standard.
Alton's last question says, do you believe in the butterfly effect in football, e.g. knockout penalty versus Watford, leading to Leicester winning the Premier League? Do you believe in it, Carl?
In football or in general?
Well, I don't want to get philosophical about it, but yeah, I suppose in general.
I think that there is an element to that, like, what would have happened if Iniesta didn't score in 2009 and Terry didn't slip on his arse in 2008? Would Chelsea win the Champions League in 2012?
Yeah,
it's one of them things, isn't
question, it? Yeah. I think, like, you could look at, from a Liverpool point of view, if John Stones doesn't clear the ball against Liverpool, do Liverpool go on an unbeaten streak, win the league and the Champions League in 2018-19? Potentially. Yeah. I think it's hard to decipher these things, though. Like, going from a point of, you know, Anthony Knockart missing a penalty against Leicester to then... against Watford. Obviously, Watford won the game, to Leicester win the Premier League. I think it's very, like Harry Kane was on the bench for Leicester that day.
Mad, isn't it?
Like, things like that, it's very hard to tell. But who knows? Like, another one, like, I don't know if you read it. I don't know if you actually read the interview I did, but there was a point in it where I was talking about our European trip. If you said to me in 2020, when Longford beat us and we got relegated to the First Division Shells, that fast forward to 2024, we'd be playing in Zurich against Zurich, and I would be working for the club from a broadcasting point of view, would I have believed you? Probably not.
Yeah.
So it's mad how life works. Alton, actually says, what's the most important word in the world, in your opinion?
Love. No, I don't know, Walton. What is the most important word?
I would say no.
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 Yeah, you need to know how to say no, don't you?
Or when to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No is a sentence.
Connell, yeah, is that Jordan Pearson, is it? Is it?
I don't know.
I think it is. Connell says, getting taken off for losing your jewels is the most Brexit thing that can happen. Cran is wrong. Oof. How do you take that, Cran?
Who said that?
Connell.
Connell. Connell, do you know what? You're wrong.
Oh.
There you go.
Why?
Because jewels wasn't a word. It only existed 5 years ago, when these hipsters took over and destroyed the game.
I feel like jewel is always... Have you not ever heard of the great jewel of the Notre Dame? You know, like?
The jewel of Rome. You know what I mean? It wasn't a thing in football. It's a word used in maybe fencing or another sport like that. Don't bring it into football. That's ridiculous. Nonsense.
Dan Lavin says, how's EP? Best and worst acts? Dan, thanks for checking in. I hope you're doing well in Canada. EP was great.
Yeah.
Calvin, we did chat about it last week. Calvin Harris was very good.
I was about to say, listen to last week. That.
You're a wanker. Leave that alone. Last week, worst act was probably, from what I've seen, like Noah Khan or something, but I wouldn't be mad about Noah Khan. Stephen Downing says, heard Marcus Rashford was spotted in McGowan's on Saturday. Any truth to this, Kieran?
He was, but
how successful was he?
He was a few feet taller.
Yeah, was he successful?
He wasn't successful.
David Mullery says, top 5 things to do during the international break.
Top 5 things to do during the international break.
Around the golf.
I can think of one thing that you can fit into the top 5 things to do during the international break, because you're not watching football at the time.
I would say around the golf, go for a coffee. Acai bowl. That'd be
yeah, but this one thing can take a lot shorter.
Number 3, go to the gym. Number 4, watch Prime Mutton on YouTube.
Yeah.
And number 5, go on a date if you can find a woman.
Sorry.
New duo, Nef Felix going to take the league by storm. Thoughts? No, I don't think so. I don't think Neto will play enough games because I think he'll be injured.
I think they're both going to be brilliant this year.
I don't think Felix is up to scratch. Gary says, will Rory's engagement be the end of his association with Fantrax? I suppose for him, hopefully. I think he'd be hoping.
I think for the rest of us, we're hoping, yeah.
Sham Galvin says, do you believe you should put your socks on before your trousers or trousers before socks? I think functionally it's better to put your socks on first.
I think the problem with not putting your socks on, with not putting your socks on first, is that your feet get stuck to your trousers then. Do you ever notice that? Or no, I suppose not everyone has sticky feet, but I have sticky feet.
Why have you got sticky feet?
I don't know, that is so weird.
Sham says, what's your favourite Microsoft Excel shortcut?
I like count ifs.
Right, okay, yeah.
They're very...
I don't particularly have one, to be honest.
That's
I'm not a big fan of Excel.
Learn your formulas, Adam.
Sham says, what's it like in the first division? It's grand. It's a bit grim, Sham. Like I answered this last week.
Shamalam.
We haven't been in the first division in a few years. He asked me to detail a trip to Finn Harps. I haven't. I'm pretty sure I was in Finn Harps once and I was a child, so I don't actually remember. Trish says, your favourite football chant?
My favourite one is, because it's the most materialistic garbage I've ever heard in my life, is not London forever.
You actually like that?
I like it because how bad it is and how fake it is.
It's funny you say this. So when we were in EP, me and Trish were singing to Arsenal fans, same old Arsenal, always cheating, same old Arsenal, always cheating. So that's why she's asked me. That's why she's asking us the question.
Right.
I don't know if you could class as a chant or a song, but I love when we sing Lily Allen at Shells. There's something, especially after we score. It's very jubilant.
Tell you what chant I actually find myself singing all the time.
One.
And it's an old one. Come on, Wilfred Boney.
Like
I'd be on the golf course sometimes and I'm about to hit a tee shot on the 12th.
Yeah.
And I'm hitting an iron and it's over water. And I'm like, come on, Wilfred Boney. Score some goals for Swansea.
We'll go wild, wild, wild.
And it usually works when I hit the fairway.
Another one, Gibraltar, as Espanyol, was great when we were in Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Because we played in Europe, Gary. Shelbourne played in Europe this season, Bohemians didn't. That's for Gary Vavaswar. And we'll end with Gary this week.
Oh, of course.
He says, make an 11 of goalkeepers in the Premier League. And Gary, you're in luck this week. We usually hate these questions.
Yeah. I still hate these questions.
But for you, I made Kieran prepare because I actually do like questions like this.
I was locked in a room making this team. Adam forced me to make this team.
It is a good site though, Kieran. I do quite like it.
Well, you forced me to make it, so...
We're going to start off, Kieran, with the goalkeeper. David Raya of Arsenal. He had the most clean sheets last week. The last season, excuse me.
I'm going to do a Gary Neville here and get up the board. Do you know the Sky Sports board?
If you can hear a lot of moving, it's because Kieran is actually walking around in his brown shoes. At right back, Kieran, we have Jose Sa of Wolves. He was really bad the weekend, wasn't he, against Chelsea?
He's very quick off his line, though.
Very quick off his line.
And very quick and right back.
And he's quite large. To be fair to him, I think he has a good touch for a...
Big man.
Yeah, for a big man.
What were you
speaking of good touches for big men, we have Nick Pope at centre-half.
Pope, yeah.
Yeah.
Is he a Catholic? I don't
know. Partner of him at centre-half is Alex McCarthy of Southampton.
Yeah. You mightn't be too good at passing out from the back, though.
Left back, we have Jordan Pickford. He was the only left-footed goalkeeper I could think of.
Yeah, and you hate him, so you put him left back.
I hate him. And do you know what? I was going to put him left back on the bench. Oh, God. Defensive mid, we have Ederson of Manchester City. I think it's a little known fact, well, according to Pep Guardiola, that he can pass the ball really well. And he does, to be fair to him.
Do you know what? Stefan Ortega wouldn't be a shout as well. It wouldn't be a bad shout because he plays under Pep as well. But Ederson, I think, could play that Rodri role, couldn't he?
Yeah. Partner of him in midfield is Onana of Manchester United. Another player who is tidy with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
And if he's prone to making a mistake, but I suppose if he makes a mistake in midfield, you know, he's far enough away from goal that might not be detrimental.
He can just jump on the ball.
Can. Beside them midfield is Emi Martinez, the best goalkeeper, well, in the world, some would say.
Every midfield needs a shit house.
Do you think... Yeah, that's very true. I didn't even think of that point. Do you think he's the best goalie in the world still?
No.
He let in a really bad goal against Arsenal the weekend, I thought.
I'd put this fella as best goalkeeper in the world.
Ederson?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I thought he was poor for the goal. He actually wrote this out for people. Kieran's pointed that name. Ederson. He was very poor for the Ipswich goal.
I think...
Let a dribble past him.
I'd put him as best goalkeeper in the world for why Summit City.
Up front, we have a front two behind Alisson of Liverpool. The only goalkeeper currently in the Premier League to have scored a goal, I believe, in the Premier League. So I think it's only natural for him to be up front.
Yeah.
Behind him, we have Jason Steele.
You love to point that out.
Of Brighton. Do you know what I love to point out? I'll be honest with you, right?
Go on.
I'm gonna be a bit deep here as we end the podcast. Alisson's goal in COVID is probably my favourite moment in COVID.
Yeah, I remember you saying this.
I'm being deadly serious. I think Alisson had who did he lost his father or something, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
His father passed away and he was going through a really tough time. And that goal, and a bit like the butterfly effect, I suppose, that Ultimate was talking about earlier, that goal got us into the Champions League the season after. And
not that goal specifically, was it?
Well, it was one of the goals. You know, it got us into the top four. So I find it very emotive when I look back on it. It was a great moment.
This how I feel. You telling this story. I'm going to shed a tear.
Yeah, sad story.
Oh, but very sad.
Great moment though. Really great moment. And behind Alisson we have Jason Steele of Brighton and Sam Johnston of Crystal Palace. I think that's a solid lineup of goalkeepers, Gary.
Who's the manager?
What do you think, Kieran? Manager, Scott Carson.
What about Kepa? Because he's trying to be the manager.
No. Scott Carson because he's the most experienced and he's won a lot of trophies. So I think that's a solid lineup, Kieran.
Yeah. Cheers, Gary, for the question.
Raya in goal, Jose Sa, Pope, McCarthy, Pickford as your back four, Ederson, Onana, Martinez in midfield, and then a front three of Jason Steele, Sam Johnson, and Alisson Becker for his goal against West Brom. Kieran, that's been the podcast this week. Good touch for Big Man. Do you want to tell everyone to subscribe and like our shit?
Yeah, everyone, please make sure to click on the link tree if you get the chance and review the podcast on Spotify. If you're listening right now and you're listening on Spotify, it helps out a lot. It helps the algorithm a lot. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to throw a bit of feedback anywhere you can. YouTube as well. I know we missed out on video this week. We'll be back next week and hopefully have a dazzling new setup. Who knows? There's a lot of stuff in the works. And I'm not just joking saying this, I'm being serious. We're going to try and get a few guests on as well very soon. So
one being Prime Mutton. We would love to get Prime Mutton on.
Prime Mutton. Hopefully, Adam, you said Mark Chapman. I'd love to get Mark Chapman on.
Yeah, he'd be a great guest.
He'd be brilliant. He'd ask us the questions maybe.
And that'd be quite funny. He would bring the best out in us, you know that?
Yeah.
If there is,
or the worst.
If there is the best to be brought out in us, I think he'd bring it out.
Yeah.
But Kieran, that's it this week. Another enjoyable episode.
Yeah. Can't wait to do it all again next week, Adam.
Episode 3, the Noni Madeuke, is live now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Thanks for joining us, and we'll leave it there so.
Baby.